selected for the Veterans History Project for the Library of Congress. Name is William Hastings Cato. Birthday is April 2nd, 1921. Served in World War II in the Army Infantry. He achieved the rank of Staff Sergeant. We are recording this on November the 21st, 2012. I am Drew Ricard, and I am conducting the interview. No relation. Mr. Hastings, if you could tell me a little bit about before you went off to service, what was your home life like back in the 20s before the war started?
Yeah, we was sawmill. My daddy was a sawmill man, and we sawmill, but we just couldn't make enough money. Couldn't make money. It hard. Times was hard, you know, and things was just going like from worse to, you know, the better to worse and all like that. And this was right after they had bombed Pearl Harbor, you see, and tore up Pearl Harbor. So then that's put us on the edge, you know, the United States of America. It put them in bad pursuit, you know, I'd say. But anyhow, they started then, they started drafting young boys, 21 and up to 45, 45-year-old. So they was drafting them, and I told this young boy, me and him worked together at the sawmill, and we date girls together, you know, Vic Johnson. And we had good times together, you know, and they drafted him now. And they sent him his papers and everything, and I said, Vic, I'm going to volunteer and go with you. And he said, I don't know if you could do that or not. But anyhow, I come home that night and I told Mom and Daddy, I said, I'm going to join the Army. Oh, no, you ain't going to join the Army. You can't get in the Army. You ain't 21 yet. You ain't 21 yet. And so we may not sign for you. I said, well, okay. So I got up the next morning and I said, well, Mama, I said, Daddy can go to the sawmill by himself. I said, I'm young and all like that. And I said, I hadn't seen none of the world, nothing but Aiken County and all like that, Columbia, as far as I've ever been by, Augusta, Georgia. I said, I'm going to see the world. I said, I either join the Army. She said, well, I said, okay. I said, nothing to do you but get in the Army. Said, we'll go ahead and sign the papers. So I went ahead, I signed the papers. So they signed the papers, and I went over to Fort Jackson, the induction center, and got over there, you know, and I had worked there when they was building Santee Cooper Dam and all down there. I worked down there. So it was set up, the quarters and everything was just like the Army. We had Army rations, we had Army camps and mess kits and bunks and everything. It was just like the Army. Well, I had worked down there 6 months, so I had got a little bit of a routine of what it was like. So I got over to Fort Jackson, and they said, well, I said, what you gonna do? Take off your clothes now. Take off your clothes and pile them up over in a pile. So don't mess up, just pile them in a pile. And so we're gonna give you shots. And we went through the line getting the shots. And some was on each side giving us, I think we take 21 shots, you know, to get in. We was going into that country over in France, so they didn't want us to get sick and all like that. So a lot of them boys, it was amazing. Some of them couldn't stand looking at the needle and they fell out. So anyhow, that was a pretty good day. And that night I went up to Vic. Me and Vic got separated. And the boy I was on volunteer with, and we got separated, but I went up to his barracks that night, and I told him, I said, well, I tell you, I said, we still can get together, I believe, if we just hold out for it, you know. So next morning they got him, and they sent him off to Puerto Rico, and he was an ambulance driver all during the war over in Puerto Rico. And he didn't ever see no action much. He hauled sick people, you know, like in the States with the ambulance. And he said really he didn't consider he was in the Army. He was in the Army, you know, but yet he'd Army food, and he wore Army clothes, things like that, you know. But anyhow, they told me, said, well, said, since you volunteered, said, we don't have a group. Said, they left yesterday. They shipped out a regiment, you know. They had to have so many men, you know, for a company, a regiment, a battalion, and all like that, you know. And said, we're getting a bunch of boys in from New York. And said, you join up with them. So I said, okay, I didn't do nothing but hang around. I said, well, yeah. So that night, I figured out, I said, well, I won't have another chance to get to see Mom and Daddy. So, pardon me, I had an uncle that lived in, a first cousin lived in Columbia. So I went up there and I said, Horace, I said, I slipped off from camp, and I said, after the lights went out, I said, I went AWOL. I said, could you carry me down and see Mom and Daddy? Well, it's about 32 miles down there from Columbia to Aiken. And we went down there, and so I told them goodbye and all like that. So we come on back. I walked back to, I called a taxi and got him to put me up pretty close to where I could get in without getting seen, you know, anybody seeing me, MPs and all seeing me, because I didn't have no pass, and they'd have got me for AWOL, but yeah, I got by that time. And so next day then we shipped out, and we went to Thomasville, Georgia. Went down there for 16 weeks training, basics training, infantry. So we left and we rode the train. Never had rode a train, and so we rode the train all the way down there to Thomasville, Georgia, and got down there. And so they put me in the infantry, give me a rifle, M1 rifle. No, it wasn't M1, it was 03. It was bolt action. And we trained with that. And we were lucky we stayed there 18 weeks instead of 16 weeks. We got 2 more weeks of training there. So I wrote home and I told Mama, I said, well, she was poorly, and I said, you can go up to Aiken. They live right down in Aiken, and I said, you go up there and talk to the Red Cross women, and I said, they can get me home for a weekend pass. And I said, this will be the last time I get to see you for a while. I don't know where we're going to go from, but we're going to be going in this coming week. I said, we done had 17 weeks and we're working on, and we're going into the 18th week. And I said, but that weekend, I said, we'll go. So they did. They got me a pass. And I come home, and I left them and come back that night. Come back and got back in camp and all that week. So then we went down and loaded loaded up on the train, and come over to Augusta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Come within, I reckon, 17 miles of home. So I was stationed over there at Camp Gordon and stayed there 6 months. So we stayed there 6 months and we left there and we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. We went up there, Fort Dix, New Jersey, to learn how to shoot dynamite. Because they said that the Germans had pillboxes, and so they needed dynamite, somebody to know how to shoot dynamite and blow them pillboxes. But there was a dugout in the ground. It was about 8 by 8 and about 6 or 8 foot deep. And then it had a cement slab and concrete and iron metal welded together and they just had a hole they could go in. But they could put a gun in there and fire, and fire out across the fields and all like that. And so it was hard to hit them with artillery or either planes from the air could hardly hit them and tear them up, So, but what you had to do was go in there by hand, crawl up there by hand, and what we done, we made what they call a satchel charge. We got anything, a limb, a board, a piece of metal, anything about 2 foot or 2.5 foot long, and we had primer cord. We had taken fuse. It was primer cord, kind of like a firecracker, you light a firecracker and there's fuse. Mm-hmm. Well, then we had TNT was more powerful than the dynamite. So what we would do, we'd wrap 9 sticks of dynamite and then bars of about pound bars of that TNT. And we'd wrap that with that satchel charge, around that metal or piece, whatever we had. And we'd ease up there and we could lay that thing against that bunker. We call it a bunker. And it would blow the top off. It was enough power, it blowed it off. So we trained for that at Fort Dix, New Jersey. So there we left there, we caught the train and we come on back and we went down to Tallahassee, Florida. Down there where it was warm and sunshine and all like that. And they had an island out there from the mainland. They had an island back off that called 10 Mile Island. Mm-hmm. It was 10 miles wide out there. And we'd go out there and they would get us to swim back. And that's what we had to do. We had to learn how to swim. That's most of what we was down there for. Mm-hmm. To learn to swim. And in case we was on the ship now, we learned all kind of ways, to save our lives. And we climbed them rope ladders and up and down the ship. Mm-hmm. And we jump off in the water. And sometime the last act was to jump off in the water, and they had put gas over the water, and we dove off of a ramp they had built into a pool of water there. This wasn't in the ocean, but yet it was down near the ocean. And we jumped off in that pool. It was about 30 or 40 foot deep, I reckon I'd say, and about half a mile wide, maybe. and rotate the water back and come up and we get air, and then go back down in the water and move further, you know. See, that was teaching us how to get away from that ship if it caught a fire. So after we got trained, now we 6 months we trained that. Well, they said, I was trained with the 4th Division at that time, dive relief. It was a good company, it was infantry. And we went on a lot of parades in towns and all like that. We had a good times and all, and bad times too. But yeah, see, they said, we had what they call a rifle company. It was 190 men strong. But what it was, see, there was too many. They had to break us down to 160. Was a rifle company. And so that way they said, you boys will be called names and y'all will join us later. So they didn't tell us, but that's what they meant, replacements. So anyhow, they said, now we're going overseas now. We'll be going overseas, and y'all will join us later. And so they had put me in with the 126th Infantry Division. And we got from Camp Atterbury, we come back to Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, and we climbed them mountains. And what they wanted us to do, they put us in a machine gun company and mortar company. Mortars, you know, shoot mortars. I never could learn how to shoot that mortar. It had three legs, and you had to work tripod, they call it, you know, elevate it, turn right, and turn left back to set it up. You know, it was tripods like that. But anyhow, you had a little wheels down here. You sit down under it, you know, and you look at it through the little leveler to get it level. I could fire the mortar all right, but I learned how to fire them, but I could never set it up. Well, they said, you'll be an ammunition bearer, maybe. So, but I trained in Tennessee. I was the first gunner on the machine gun, water cool there. That's a water cool. But after we got overseas, then they give us air cool machine guns. So I said, we shipped off from out of Tennessee, this place in Tennessee. I come home on a 30-day furlough, and then I had a delayed route to get back into New York and catch the big boat overseas from England. So I come home, stayed 30 days, and I had to have 3 or 4 days for traveling. But anyhow, I got back, and we got back on that ship. We loaded on that ship. I forget how many thousands we were on that ship of Army boys and servicemen. And when we pulled out, the boat was so big and all, and had so many ships at that time going to England. It didn't ever look like we left town. We looked back, you know, and we waved at the old Statue of Liberty, and they said, just hope you can get back to see her. I said, just hope you be lucky enough to go over there and fight and come back and see her. And I said, oh boy. And so we sailed, 14 days and nights. We was on this big cruiser, you know, big ship. I don't know how many thousand people we boys was on it. But anyhow, they said the reason it takes so long that we went all down to Mediterranean Sea,
Mediterranean.
Yeah, Mediterranean Sea. That's way down, you know, way down. Well, anyhow, they said the reason of that, we was dodging the wolf pack, the German submarines. See, that ship would go in an angle, it would go straight, and then it may go, I don't know, 300 or 400 yards, and cut diagonally then across, and then go like square that way, and then turn and go back. It was zigzagging. So it was amazing. Sometimes we'd get up and go on the deck and watch it, you know, watch how it's going and it's going. So we got to England. We got there, it was about, I reckon, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock in the evening. And so we thought, well, maybe they'll let us go aboard, you know, now since we up here near the dock. And we was right there seeing the Englishmen and all going up and down the street and over yonder in the town, and the dock come right up in there. The waterway come up in there. And we don't know who done it, but they was smart. Somebody always smart, you know. So they heaved off 3 or 4 rolls of toilet paper, strung from the ship out onto the walkway. And they told us, oh, well, everybody get back in the ship. Get back in the ship. And don't show your faces out until next morning. That was the punishment, I reckon. So then we waited, it was in April, and then we waited for June till June, in England. Waited in England, you know. We was out in the field, dug in, and after they said D-Day was 6 and get ready to move out.
Did you know what was going on at the time? Could you expect?
Oh yeah. It was telling us all the plans and all. We had plans and all like that. And I said this buddy, I had a buddy there in England. Me and him dug in a foxhole, and we was in that foxhole. And happened we had just come out, and the sun it would rain over there every 30 or 40 minutes, seemed like, at that time of year. So we had crawled up on the edge of the foxhole, you know, to kind of sun. We had on old overcoats, old army overcoats, and this German plane come over and strafed right over us. And the little twigs, we had little branches and all have got in the dirt. We throwed up on the back side of our foxhole. It just cut them off now. I said, that was a German plane. He said, yeah. So they even bombing over here. At night, they had the night fighters, they call them. Night bombers. They was bombing England. It was about to sink England, I tell you what. If the United States hadn't got in when they did, I don't know. It'd been hard. But anyhow, then they told us to get ready with D-Day. And they started off that morning, December the 6th, and they crank up them bombers, and they fly 3 abreast. And each one of them now had nine booms. And each one of them booms weighed 900 pounds. So they would go over, they would fly over in France, fly abreast in France, and they had planes, you know, the fighter planes would lead them in, and then they would drop the bombs and they would turn and come back and reload. And they bombed all day like that, all day and night. They just continuously pounding France. Well, see, after that, whenever they said, well, so now we're going to carry in the replacements. So that's where I come in. They told us that, well, y'all go down to the dock of the beach and load up on these landing barges. Some call them LSTs, but the landing barges was what it was. So it was 18 miles across that channel. And boy, the water was rough. Ooh, the waves was whooping up 3 and 4 foot high. And that little old thing, it was about 30 or 40 of us on there, on that one. And they had more right on each side of us and behind us and all. And we got pretty close to the shore. They said, now when they dropped the ramp, said, y'all hit the water and keep your heads down, keep your heads down. So we eased on over there, and they dropped the ramp and off we went. I got in the water, it was just come up to my chin. So I got out, and we went up. They had the beach now, it was pretty hot. They were still firing, snipers and all was firing, you know. And they had Germans they had captured them. They was in a bunker. They had them in the bunkers that was shooting and firing back at the ships and all like that. And men coming up on the beach, they, you know, there was still some of them there, but they just bypassed them all. They went on up. And they had pushed them back 10 miles. They had pushed the Germans back 10 miles when I joined them. Well, we didn't know nobody. I said, you know, I trained with a machine gun. I said, I know all about the machine gun. And I can fire the mortar. I fired the BAR, Browning automatic. It shoot 20 rounds. And I said, but I'm over here on my own. I said, I ain't volunteering for nothing. So this man, he said, now listen, said, I'm going to separate y'all now. He wanted 8 mortar men. He wanted 8 mortar men. That's how many they had lost. 8 mortar men. And then he wanted 10 machine gunners. 10 machine gunners. And then he wanted 16 infantrymen. So I joined in with the infantrymen. And this lieutenant, he told us, he said, well, said, y'all see these boys laying here? There was 4 boys, 4 soldiers laying there dead. He said, y'all see. He said, them was good men. He said, I hope y'all as good a men as they are. And there was, we was, I think, 7 men in his squad. He lost just about everything he had. But anyhow, we had this one boy with us, and he said, I want to learn, want to find out what what y'all learned back in the States. And I says, can you load your rifle? Well, we didn't have no rifle yet. I mean, they give us a rifle, you see, and ammunition. So, yeah, we turned and put our gun up in there, you know, and the old M1, and mashed the trigger housing down, and let the bullets go down in there, and one would go in the chamber. Well, you see, when one went in the chamber, you see, all you had to do was pull the trigger. And that boy, he pulled the trigger, and that thing fired by y'all, but it was up in the air, you know. And he said, my God, said, boy, I said, you didn't learn nothing in the States, did you? Said, you'll be dead for night. I thought, boy, that was awful to say to a guy like that. Scared him to death. Sure enough, we went on. We attacked the Germans over there and battled it out, a couple of battles, and pushed them back. And then we dug in. I said, we paired off, you know, we had paired, you know, buddies. And then we didn't know nobody, but we had to make friends, Tom. So, but yeah, in that case, everybody was your friend. And so, well, I said, I got this guy from Wisconsin, Bob Boucher. And so we talked it over. I said, oh, that lieutenant, he's scared of. But the lieutenant didn't last but about 2 days. See, they'd go first. The lieutenant would go out with 2 scouts right behind him, you know, just one on each flank, you know, left and right. And he was kind of out in the middle. Lieutenant was looking out everything. But the Germans, they wanted to pick off but they didn't have no insignia, no. They didn't. Only way you know the rank was by somebody tell you, you know, the rank. You didn't wear your identification, no identification. Well, anyhow, we got us another lieutenant then, and went on. We eased up in now what they call the Siegfried Line. Well, the Siegfried Line, they had the French, had the Maginot Line, and the Belgian people, they had the Siegfried Line. I believe that's the way it was. But anyhow, they dug them, you know, back, one facing the other. It wasn't much protection. If somebody broke through the line, then they could turn their guns and all that they had set up. They could turn them and fire them back on the ones, you know, and counterattack them. It wasn't much to it, but anyhow, we got in there that evening. These what they called the Siegfried Line was what it was, cement blocks. They was, I think they had 8 or 9 across diagonally, but they was about what's called two maybe 3 foot square, and it was I'd say 3.5 foot high. And as long far as you could see down to your right was jaggers. We call them jaggers. And as far as you could see down this way, in front of you, was jaggers. So they said, well, fire on that haystack. It just looked like a real haystack, you know, out there.
Mm-hmm.
Across that secret line. And it's like, you know, like a roadbed, you know, but that thing was, it's kind of like a, I don't know, like a racetrack, you know, had been built or something. It was all as far as you could see down that way, as far as you could see down this way. But anyhow, we got that just a little bit before sundown, and our captain said, fire on that haystack. So they had a Jeep, you know, it had a 50 caliber machine gun mounted on the Jeep, and they blasted away on that haystack, and the bullets ricocheted off. And the captain said, well, said, we played it now, said, it's going to be tough from here on in. Said, when you fire on a haystack and all the bullets ricochet off, said, it's something else, tougher. So they said, well, y'all dig in here, dig in, wherever you can, so dig in, dig your foxhole and all. And me and Bob, we was going to lazy boy the way out because they had knocked the German tank out. Mm-hmm. And we crawled under that tank. We thought that was good, you know, protection. Get out on that. And boy, what happened? One of our bombers come over and went over and boomed, and he circled. And when he come back, he dropped some landmines on that tank. But happened, you know, it didn't explode enough to hurt me and him. We crawled out from under that, boy. We got out. We got in the dirt. We dug us a hole in the dirt, man, where it was safe. I tell you, it's a cold. But you know, they never. We was the first ones. Now what they done to get across that, they backed up, cause we learned that in France in the hedgerows. We was blowing them with demolitions. Me and this boy, we'd blow holes in the bank, and the tanks could go through. Mm-hmm. But what it was, this banks were about 3 foot high, and see, the tank pull up by it, that the belly was, you know, visible to the guys out there with the artillery, you know, anti-tank guns and all like that, artillery. And they could just fire right in there and knock it out, and it rolled back. So we got, that first day, we got 9 tanks across the hedgerows. And old Patton and Eisenhower and Legault. That the prime minister guy, you know, of
France,
of England.
No, yeah.
England, prime minister, and old Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
So they was up there, you know, they was up there to see how things was going and all like that. And Patton said, boys, said, if y'all get me across the hedgerows, said, I'll ride you into Berlin on the tanks. So the next morning, we had blowed them holes and got 9 tanks across. So the next morning, we had more hedgerows in front of us. They was just oodles of them. And so this guy said, listen, said, why don't we got a caterpillars back here, you know, said with the blades on them. Said we'd take a blade off of that and weld it on the front of a tank. So that's what they done. They taken the blade off of a caterpillar and put on the tank, and then they just pushed, see? Mm-hmm. Just pushed that open.
Straight through.
And the Germans seen us then, seen how much we had gained, you see, on them, till they run. it was open country from there, and we walked 90 miles in 3 days across France. It wasn't no trees, nothing. They couldn't get fortified, you know. They didn't have no place to dig in, you know, to have fortification, you know, to have protection. So they run till they got the wooded area. So when they found the wooded area then, and it caught us. Now we was running them and not firing a shot. So, but yeah, they caught us. We wound up when they pinned us down. We wound up in a beet field. You know, they growed beets, you know, for the animals, and it was getting on, you know, like winter time and fall of the year, and so they beat, and we lay down in the beet row. That was protection for us. So we finally got them pushed back and come on in. So we was, but I went through Luxembourg. After we got through France, we went through Belgium, Luxembourg, and Harlem. And I said that I had passed through 3 forests. The Argonne Forest, the Hurricane Forest, and Black Forest, Black Forest. 3 forests. So we was in Belgium, and Patton says, boys said, ain't got but 1 tank. But he said, now you keep it running up and down the road, keep that thing running steady up and down the road, and says, make the Germans think we got a lot of tanks. Said, and hoping we can get a bunch of tanks in the morning. They get them up here to us, and that was it. It's up in I know the place, the name of it. But anyhow, that morning they had a tank battle. They got enough tanks, they had a tank battle. But I tell you what, I was dug in right down at the little creek run like Bastogne. It was at Bastogne. There was a great battle, tank battle there. Old Patton run up against the Germans and lost a lot of tanks and lost a lot of men. So anyhow, I was dug in right there. I seen them. They could take that old German tank with that nozzle on it and fire it one of our Tiger tanks and just boom, whole gun turret would go off and they was crawling around out like caterpillars. No gun turret on nothing, no way. They had all they had was 30 caliber machine guns right at the front of the tracks. That's all the protection they had. But I tell you, we had they had a tank battle there, you know, and I was laying right there, getting a good eyeful of it. Well, we left there and it started snowing and freezing. Weather got bad on us, And we got up at a place in Germany that was, and one of them forests, I don't even know just which one, but anyhow, we was in that forest and I never had seen a snowsuit, you know. But these Germans, they had snowsuits. And so they attacked at us. We was dug in the ground and about to freeze to death, but anyhow, we was dug in and I said to Bob, this is something funny. I said, look out there. You know, you'd think it was a tree stump, about 5 or 6 foot tall, tree stump. You think, he was dressed up in that white snowsuit, you know, and he just standing there straight. And it did look like an old bump, you know, a tree had been, artillery had cut it down, you know, broke it over and tore it up. But I told him, I said, that thing's moved. I said, it's getting closer. Getting closer. So we was quiet, boy, couldn't even hardly whisper. We didn't want them to know we was there. And so they radioed to old Patton, told him to surrender, had him surrounded. Said, we got you surrounded. And said, Patton says, draw your men in, come on in, said, and so he said, well, Patton says, he said, nuts to him. He said, I ain't firing, I ain't surrendering till every round is fired and a bayonet stuck in a jury's belly. Yeah. We got way on up in Belgium there, and we captured Germans and all, and they'd want to know, so what was that word meant? Nuts. Nuts. Well, I said, it was just kind of like a wild word, you know, somebody used the Lord's name in vain. But that's what it was actually, you know, but it was there. But we got replacements, and happened the sun broke through. It had a mist of rain, and then the sun broke through. And when the sun broke through, the planes come over. Oh boy, the planes come over and boomed and boomed. I mean, they boomed. And that's how we got away, you know, that time to keep from getting captured, you know, we got away from that. But we come on up and fought, fought. One battle after another battle, and so, and like I said, we got out in this apple orchard, and we was holding up there for supplies, and we was enjoying ourselves like eating pancakes. Yeah, they was giving us hot pancakes for breakfast and all. We figured we'd like to stay there for a while. But this little bed check Charlie, he would come over, you know, and so I told the lieutenant, I said, Lieutenant, this lieutenant was from Aiken. I didn't know him at the time. He didn't know me, but we joined up from he was from Aiken and I was from Aiken. So he liked me, and I liked him because he was my lieutenant. He got to be my lieutenant. And then I had Captain Shaw. He was the captain, you know. And the two of them, the Lieutenant Aiken and Lieutenant Shaw, worked together. So Lieutenant Aiken said, Cato said, if that bed check Charlie comes over tonight, said, shoot him down. I don't know. I reckon he was, you know, he just said it as a joke, like, you know. He didn't think I'd do it. So I had that old running automatic, you know. And boy, that got come over, he's just above the treetops up there, you know. You just about see him in there, you know, pop, 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 pop. And he was kind of going off from me, you know. And I just kneeled down on my knees and caught it. I just fired right under the belly of that plane. And it went off in the smoke. Went down into the smoke. And boy, our captain, he got mad. Who in the world? Not all that fire. Who's doing that shooting and all? I said, oh, Cato. Yeah, Cato done it. And so he said, well, we got to move out of here. We got to get out of this apple orchard right now. I said, well, we'll everyone get killed. So let's get out, go. And we pulled out. We got down there in the open field like it. I think we had got dug in about 2 foot deep. And their planes come over. They would come over and drop the bombs and circle and go back and get more. They burned the bomb by the apple orchard. It was about I would say at least a 10 acre apple orchard. But when they Germans got through with it, it looked like splinters, you know. The forest had storm had went through and splintered it all up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then next development I got into was we was in open field holding up, waiting for the Belgian bulge. Mm-hmm. And they said that they were going to let us go back for 18 days. Ones that been on the front lines get to go back and celebrate, kind of, you know, get plenty to eat and all like that, plenty of water and everything. But anyhow. And we was holding up at a big old field. I remember a big old field. And we could go up out of this farmhouse, you know, and wash our hands and wet our hair, comb our hair, you know, and it all make us feel better. And it was an old farmhouse. And I know the way the door opened from where we was at, open and shut. And so that night, guys had moved the artillery going down the road from that house, mm-hmm. set up, you know, to knock out tanks. And so 3 guys on the gun, and they'd come up there and open the door, you know, one to go in to open the door and shut it. But that was like, you know, making a signal. Mm-hmm. From where we was at in the foxhole, we could see the, you know, the flashing of it. And so we told the lieutenant that we believe there's somebody signaling and giving signals to the airplanes from that farmhouse. He said, well, I'll tell you what. Says, Cato said, if you see it tonight, says, you see it tonight, said, put it out. Okay. And we pulled guard over at the time. We had buddies, you see, and one would pull over, and the other didn't pull over, mm-hmm. and through the night. And so Bob, he was on guard, and what they doing, see, they come off the gun and come in and get water and to wash up, mm-hmm. in that farmhouse. And Bob says, Cato said that our lights on up there at the house. But it's 900 yards from where I was to where that house was. Mm-hmm. And so Bob said, hey, Cato said, you shoot it out. I said, you don't want to see it? And we was talking back and two about it, you know.
Mhm.
And so out come one, you know, one come out. And I said, I aimed across there, you know, right at the doorknob. I aimed right for the doorknob. I said, pow! And I seen the bullet ricochet off. And I dropped down on my knees. And I fired another, and the next one come out. He come out and it hit him in his right. He come out and he hit him in his right ankle. Man, they squalled in. They said, who in the world shot our own men? Our own men, said they. Somebody shot him. Yeah, who done that? Cato. Cato doing the shooting. Well, next morning they said, well, they was going to give us pancakes for breakfast. And so we was heading for the chow line, and they called, said, Cato said, the colonel wants to see you. I said, what? The colonel, yeah, the colonel wants to see you. Colonel and the captain wants to see you. The boss said, you're in trouble. Yeah. I said, oh boy. I went on down there and I saluted them and told them my name and everything, reported to them. And they said, well, you trigger happy guy. Said, over here shooting up our men from the States. Said, you know how long, the old colonel, he bowled up. He said, you know how long it takes to, how much it costs to train a soldier and all like that and get him ready for battle and all like that and everything. And I said, well, yes, sir. I said, I put some time in the service. I said, I know. Well, he said, why did you do it? I said, well, we told the lieutenant. I said, I told my lieutenant about it, and he said, if you see the light tonight, put it out. And I said, that's why I was shooting. I put the light out. Yeah, hit one of our old men. It was the one down on the anti-tank gun, artillery gun. See, they could knock out a tank coming up the road. And so Lieutenant Aiken, he said, that colonel said, well, we've got to court-martial you, Mr. Cato. Said, we'll have to court-martial. Says, you know what the punishment is over here? Said, they take all your money away from you for 6 months or a year, and said then they give you all the details, like when you have a kitchen, set up kitchen, that you have to dig the grease traps, so you'll have to dig everything is hard work, you know, and all like that. Said, now that's your punishment. I said to him, I said, well, listen, I said, now I got my money's going home to mom and daddy. I don't get no money over here. I said, all my money goes home to my mom and daddy because they need it. And I said, don't cut my money off. I said, anything else you give me, I'll take it. But I said, don't make them do something wrong for me doing wrong to knock them out of their pleasure, you know. They was looking forward to it. Lieutenant Aiken, he walked up and he said, hey, Cato, what you doing here? I said, well, it's going to court-martial me, you know, for putting that light out. He said, Colonel, he said, if you're going to court-martial anybody, you court-martial your own men, because they was off their post. He said, they come up out of that farmhouse, they left their gun unattended. So now they left their gun unattended, and they said, German, what kept the Germans from capturing that gun? and said, Cato, go on down there and get your hot cakes and eat. Yeah, I said, oh, okay. Oh boy, we got up there in a coal mine, like, you know, where they dug coal, and they had these big mounds of dirt. And so tanks come around in through there, getting through to get over to a street. They wanted to go down that street. So right where we was in an old house, we spent the night in this old house, and so the tank got knocked out right there where they had dredged all the gold out of, and the dust was left there, a big mound of dirt and all like that. And so that's where they wanted us to dig in behind that bank. And we had this lieutenant, I had this sergeant. He was from the States, and he had just went all to pieces. He cracked up and he cussed himself. He just couldn't take it no longer. He said that he wasn't no good. He wasn't no good to his country. He wasn't no good to his fellow man, and he had failed him, and he just couldn't take it. He was so nervous. He couldn't take it. So, well, he swallowed his tongue. He swallowed his tongue. So Lieutenant Aiken says, look, see if you can find me a nail, any old nail. Get a nail, anything, piece of metal, you know. We got a 20-penny nail out of an old piece of wood and stuck it down in his tongue. They carried him back to the aid station. I don't know what happened to that boy, but anyhow. Oh boy, baby. I told him, I said, we don't want to dig in behind this mound because we'll be trapped. I said, we want to get out here in the front. And we got out, and me and this boy, he was a Jewish, a little short fella, and he and myself, we went up in this building. We went up in this building, and we noticed we could see the Germans coming down into a spring, down in below that building, and me and him started picking them off. We was having a good time picking them Germans off. Well, I told him, I said, we done messed around here a good while. I don't know how many we've killed, how many we've wounded, but it's about time for me and you to move, because I said, they're going to zero in on this house. They're going to kill us, buddy. And no quicker than I said that, two Germans had walked up the stairway and thrown a little, what they call potato masher. It was a hand grenade, German hand grenade. And they throwed it, and so I was smart enough, I grabbed it, I throwed it back at them, and they run down the stair steps, and I throwed it down there, throwed that thing down there. Well, we come on down, till we got down the street, got down on the floor level, them Germans had flattened that house. It was a good thing we didn't stay up afterwards. We'd have been. So we got up by, we was heading back to where we jumped off from. And this buddy, he told me, he said, hey, said, two Germans coming, they following us. I said, cut down on them. He opened fire on them and got them two boys. So we got on back over there, and I got with Lieutenant Aiken. He said, well, we got over, we was taking street fight, and we was taking house to house. And so we going down house to house and said, the Germans come in on us. Come in on captured half his men, half what he had down there, you know. And me and him, we took off. We started running after 4, and we got 3 of them, but one got away. But he cut them down, boy. As they were running, we was riding behind him, and he just boop, boop, boop. So we got on down there, and we went in this church. It's out in the open field, this church, and we went out there. So he was looking around. He was looking around for that German that got away. And I went upstairs, and they had what's called 300 radio up there. And the guy, he had went downstairs to the restroom, and he had left it abandoned. And that thing was ringing and ringing, and I picked it up. I picked up the receiver, and I said, "Hey, what you want? What you want?" And they said, "Where's the man that's supposed to give us the directions to fire into town?" There's artillery, you know. See, that's what it was. It was calling there, you know. So you see, you could see up there. You could see the whole town up there. And I told him, I said, "Listen," I said, "I know how to handle it." I said, "Fire 1 round, fire round." And I said, they said, "What is it?" I said, "It's a good 1,000 yards, to, you know, from the church to the town, where the, you know, town started." I said, "Fire 1 round for effect." Boom. And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, raise it about 2 more hundred yards." And they raised 2 more hundred yards. And boom. I said, "Oh yeah, 1 more 100 yards and you zero in on it." Boy, they opened up. They tore that town up. And I was standing up there looking at them. I looked at them. And Lieutenant Aiken come up out and he said, "What in the world are you doing, Cato?" I said, "About that time the men come back." And he said, "What y'all doing on my radio?" I said, "I just give them a firing point." I said, "They blowed up the town up there, you know." He said, "Well, good. I tell you, war is just like you said. War was hell, I tell you. Old Patton, I jumped in the Rhine River with him. We was gonna cross the Rhine River and capture a machine gun, a German machine gun. And we jumped in them little old boats. They had them little rafting boats that you could mash a little old button and it inflate it, you know, blow it up. And them Germans had the knee mortars. They could put it on the knee and just say, boop, and they could just, 8 men could get in one of them little rafts. And they wound them up, killed some of them. And old Patton said, "Listen, so we losing too many men." So he jumped out, he pulled off his old Eisenhower jacket and threw it on the bank, and he said, "Come on, boys, and follow me." And I jumped right in behind him. We swum across the Rhine River, got over there, and we had this German music over playing. And the old girl, she said, so Fraulein, she said, "Yeah, you American soldiers," says, "you come over here and kill up our people and all, so why don't y'all go home to your babies?" And all said, "We didn't send for y'all." Said, "Y'all come over here on your own." Said, "Go back to your people," and all like that. So they radioed on had a big old 300 radio, and the radio to Patton and told him to pull back. The Germans was too well fortified for us just to were like a squad, squad men, leaders. And so we swung back across the river, Rhine River. Yeah, so, but we had it tough, I tell you what.
Now, how did you go about getting your Bronze Star?
Oh, see, where it was that I believe it's 4, ain't it? 4 Bronze Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, so much, you capture so much territory,
Mm-hmm.
you go through so many different territories. And see, if I'd have got on into Berlin, I'd have got 5.
Mm-hmm.
5 of them, but I didn't get 4, because, see, I got wounded. I was 60 miles of Berlin when I got wounded.
Can you tell me the story about getting wounded and coming home?
Yeah. Yeah, so then I got wounded, you see. How I got wounded now was through, we had went out on a patrol that night, and the lieutenant said, now listen, said, what we want to do, we want to kill most of the Germans and keep one witness so we can question. Yeah. And so then we're going to burn the house. So just before we got to the house, we went up one side, the hedgerow, and there they come down, and Germans come down the other side of the hedgerow. So we got to the house, wasn't nothing to it. And what I had to do, it was snowing and icy, and I had slipped and fell. I had my rifle on my shoulder, and that thing went under me, and I sat down on it, and it hit my thumbnail. And that next morning, that thumbnail was so big and swelled up so we pushed off and pushed the Germans back, I reckon, about 40 minutes, no more highway down to him. And so he said, we're going to dig in, and hold up 2-3 days. And I said to the lieutenant, I said, could I go down to the aid station? And I said, it's right down under the hill there. I said, get them to bore a hole in that thumbnail, let that pressure off. He said, Cato, how'd that happen? I told him how it happened. And he said, yeah. I said, you can go. And so I was walking along the wooded area, and the Jeep had these 3 men on it, was wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jeep driver, he said, listen, there was 2 of us. I didn't know the other fellow. He was walking along, we met up kind of together. And 2 of us, and he said, could y'all push us out? Help push it out. It was a little muddy place, the wheels were spinning and all. We said, yeah, so we jumped on and got pushing it out. And the Germans, they zeroed in on us with these tanks, one with the big nozzles. And they throw what they call box artillery. They throw 3 long shots, and then 3 short shots. Well, you see that gets, it just addles anything about it's in there, right in there. But the Jeep, he got on out, you see. We got him pushed, and he was rolling, you see. Mm-hmm. And that boy now, the other guy, he didn't get hurt, but I got hit in the arm. The arm tore up. So I went and I asked this guy, aid fella, medics. I said, could you give me a hypodermic? I said, I got an arm tore up, He said, yeah. And he cut the sleeve a little bit there, cut it. I said, well, we in this left arm. So he put his thing in my left arm, and I went on down on the hill, and I was sitting down there waiting. Had feet was wet, boy, wet, and just waiting, you know, for them to fix my arm. And so Lieutenant Doctor, he come over and he said, says, you need some help? I said, well, if you got anything for pain, I said, if you got anything for pain, I said, you better be giving it to me, because I said, if it starts to hurt, I said, this arm ain't woke up yet. I said, I can't tell I've been here. But I said, when it wakes up, I said, I'm probably going to start hollering. So they said, he called the guy. He said, come on here and give this boy a hypodermic. And he popped it right in there. They cut all the sleeve off, you know, that arm, cut it off. And then I said, you got somebody could get my old wet boots off? I got some dry socks and my gas mask, but I said, they said, well, where are you going to? You won't need them. So they stripped all the clothes off me except my shorts and undershirt and rolled me in a blanket. So I was a little patient, you see, a little patient. So got on back down to Oliver General Hospital back in Belgium, back down in there. And they went to unload us. I was on stretchers, and two colored people grabbed the stretcher. I said, oh, that's where y'all been. Colored people. They wouldn't fight. We had to hold them on a mountain one time. They was going to run. They told us that they come down the mountain. It's a mountain nobody's trying to take. And we lost a bunch of men. And they said, make them hold it. Said, y'all, we had just enough white boys, you know, to make them colored people stay up there and not let them come back. So the Germans didn't kill all the colored people. They held up till they could get more people in there to take the mountain. And then have our air support too, to take the mountain.
Okay, so you said the nurses were helping you home. What was the journey like after being wounded, coming back home?
Where it was, we landed there in the hospital, you see. And so they said, well, that'd be main parts. They wanted to get that in there, because, see, they said, we're going to operate on you at 12 o'clock tonight. I got that sundown now, you can imagine. Sundown, and all this time now, I didn't know I was there or nothing, but they come and the nurse woke me up. She woke me up and said, where in the world did you get all that dope? I said, I don't know. And they said, well, listen, they're going to operate on you in 15 minutes. Said, and you got so much dope in you, said, we can't give you no more. And said, they probably won't operate on you to wait tomorrow sometime or another. And I said, well, I tell you what, if you just trying to talk to me and a little bit now and then and see that I'm awake, I said, I'll be awake. Okay. Well, so she did. And they come in, they said, we're going to wheel you in here. And what they done, they wheeled me in there, and they taken and set my arm, put it out, set it, and they put a cast around my stomach and the waist, all that, and then put my arm out, and straight out in front of me that way. And I couldn't use that. I had to wear that cast for 4 weeks. 4 weeks before I could get it back on the bed, and what they done, they had put it too low down in my stomach, and it cut off my water supply. So I told them, I said, listen, I said, I can't be excused. And they said, what's happening? I said, I don't know. So they got the feeling, and they said, oh yeah. I said, what? And they taken the sawed out of an arch up in there, my stomach, you know. So we got it along all right. So then they bundled me on up, and they sent me back to a general hospital, you know, where they treated me and all like that. So I was there 4 weeks, and then this colonel there, he said, listen, said, we're going to operate on you today, and said, we're going to take that cast off of you and put you on another cast. And I said, good. So they taken that body cast off, I call it, and then they put the other sort of one on. So I had to wear it 4 weeks. But all the time I was taking physical therapy, you see. And I was taking physical therapy and working and all like that. And so whenever they told me, said, we're going to take the cast off you now. And so that way they said, good. And I was there in England, and we said Liverpool, not Liverpool, but jolly old London. Yeah, Piccadilly Square. That's where we was stationed right there. I could walk right from here down the highway, you know. And that stores and all in the stuff. Well, anyhow, what happened? We was staying there, and they were treating us good and all, getting good help and all. And so they come and they cut that body cast off me and operated on me, put me to sleep, operated on me, set my arm again, and they come back and put me on the bed. And so later on, about 2 hours later, he come back and said, is everything all right with your arm? Said, everything? And I said, well, my little finger's asleep. I said, I ain't got no feeling in my little finger. And they said, oh, well, I said, grab him up, get him up. And they carried me back down there, and they put me back to sleep again. So when they brought me back this time, they come back, they said, how's you feeling? I got feeling in the little finger. Yeah, so I said, okay, good. Well, we stayed out, and they had me scheduled to come home the next day. And I was going up taking physical therapy for my arm and all like that. And I went up that morning about 8 o'clock, and we was going to get to leave sometime that day and round us up. And so they said, you go back and get in the bed, and says, you be quiet. Said, the nurses are coming, said, coming for you, put you to bed. Here come a nurse, said, okay, everybody out, everybody out. And there must have been 30 of us on that ward. 30 of us. Said, oh, they run all of them out. And I wonder what in the world is wrong with me now? I said, going home tomorrow. I was so enthused, you know, about getting to go home tomorrow. I will be leaving tomorrow now, going back to America. Oh, I was so tickled and all like that. So I said, I'm going to get up and go to the bathroom. I went in the restroom, and I looked, and my pupils in my eyes was just yellow as gold, all around both eyes. I come back, and that nurse said, what you doing out of that bed? I said, I wanted to see what's happening to me. She said, well, you're sick, boy. I said, you're sick, boy. I said, get in that bed. I didn't know it. She sat there all that night with me. She sat right there with me all that night. And woke up next morning, I said, is it supper time yet? She said, no, said, you missed supper. Said, it's breakfast time now. Breakfast time. Said, I've been here right here with you all night. And said, you was a sick boy. They lost a lot of guys with yellow fever, you know. Had yellow fever. They lost a lot in World War I. Ooh, they didn't know what to do for it and all that. But they got me straight. Oh, yes, so. Well, then I was there, you see, a little longer. And I got up with another boy, and I said, let's go down to Piccadilly Square. And we didn't have nothing but a house coat on and pajamas and them little slip-clad shoes. And we went out there, we was having a good time going in them places and getting us crackers and cookies and all like that and drinks. And the MPs come and called us and said, y'all got to go back. Said, you out of uniform. You can't come down here with them. Get your uniforms on, and says you're welcome to come back. We didn't come back, so I was there another week. So they loaded us up. They loaded us up on a C-47 plane. And so we sat on that plane. They had us against, we was on a litter, you know, was up against the wall, you know, four of us on that plane, C-47. Well, they was gonna fly us back to France, you see. Not France, England. So fly us back to England. So they sat down, they sat down. The fog was so thick they couldn't get the plane off the ground. So they told us you have to unload. They loaded us on a little 40-8 plane, naked train. So the guy was carrying us down there. I never will forget. He's driving, an ambulance driver. He had four of us to the ambulance, you know, to carry us to the train. He said, listen, boys, said, the last stop, said, how many of y'all want a bottle of scotch? And three of us said, oh, get me one. How much is it? How much is it? It's $16 a quart. I said, get me one. He said, yeah, get me one. We got us a bottle of scotch. They got us in there, and they put our helmets up against the wall. They put three deep. I was right in the middle. One man was underneath me and one above me, but I was up there. And I said, okay, though, I said, yeah, I ain't gonna give nobody none of my whiskey. I said, I'm on this long ride, I said, I'm gonna enjoy it. And the little old dinky train, it wouldn't run 30 miles an hour. And stop in the mountain, you have a little old town. Beep, beep, beep. We finally, we got on down there they unloaded us on a little hospital ship. And we come back across the channel into England. Back into England. But that nurse, she said, oh, when they went to unload us, they was throwing the bottles in the floor. And throwing the bottles in the floor. And they said, boy, no wonder y'all was so happy. So y'all was the best guys that I ever seen. Said, no wonder you was so happy. That booze you was drinking and all like that. But we had a good time coming on across there. Anyhow, we come on back to England. And then from England, I caught the Queen Elizabeth at Luxor liner, you know, once, you know, it was into a hospital ship. And it didn't take us for 6 days to come back from England to New York. I got to New York, and they unloaded us out, and they said, what you want for supper? Oh, they had the prettiest stoves I ever seen. People in there cooking and all like that, nurses cooking with aprons on and all like little hats. And I said, listen, I said, fry me 6 eggs. I wanted egg. I don't know why I wanted a fried egg so bad. I wanted fried eggs so bad. And so they fixed me 6 fried eggs, and I ate them. And I went up and I said, I believe I can eat 6 more. 6 more. I ate a dozen of eggs. So we stayed there. We stayed there about 3 days. 3 days, and they finally got me out to. I got to hospital down in Georgia. Down there, you know. I went down there and I stayed there. I was down there, I think, 9 months. Hospital down in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And so they said, well, I said, you want to go home? I said, want to go home? Yeah, we want to go home. We want to go home. Mm-hmm. I didn't know nothing. Nobody had told me nothing, everything, nothing. What was out there for me, you know, good times and all like that. I come home, and so they said, I asked the old colonel, I said, how much disability will I get when I get discharged? He said, well, you won't know till you get your first check. I said, well, that was a sly way to do somebody. See, I was staff sergeant. I was making $115 a month. Mm-hmm. And Mom and Daddy was living good off of that. Mm-hmm. And so I come home, and well, I had some mustering out pay, I think. They give me $300, what they call mustering out pay. Mm-hmm. And I come home, and Mom and Daddy, they thought I was just going to sit there, you know, and be this and be that. And I said, well, I stayed with them a month. I couldn't do nothing. I sat around. And I said, I'm going up to my uncle's. He lived up in Edgefield County, up in Edgefield. So I went up to Uncle Boyd's, and I stayed up there a while. And then I come back, and my brother, he was working with a man at Sawmill, and he was staying in Aiken. Mm-hmm. Well, Mom and Daddy, they lived down there in Wagoner, back down Wagoner up. So I didn't want to live down there, nothing to do. And also I started staying with my brother. Lived by an Aiken. And me and him got along all right.
What was it like being able to see your family again after you came back?
It was, I'll tell you, it was something else to get home. It was something, it like a big weight had been lifted off me, you know, picked up and moved from you. And then when I got my first check, they said I was 40% disabled. Mm-hmm. 40% disabled. So I got $50 a month. It cut me, cut me from $115 down to $50. Mm-hmm. And that was what they expected for the 3 of us. We was going to have to make a living off it, you know. Because Mom and Daddy, I had wrote them and told them I got a guy to write them and tell them that I had got wounded, you know, and then that they would have to take it easy because I wouldn't know how how much money I was going to get after I got to the States. And so that, all the time I was in the hospital there, you see, I was sending that check right on to them. I never stopped to check it. It went to them every month, $115.
What was one thing that you think you took from your experience? The most important thing you learned from going through all that? What was something you kind of took from that, something you learned?
I tell you what, I really, the best thing and the honest thing it brought me back, I believe, is the first day I was in battle. I fell to the ground and my helmet went off my head, and I prayed to the Lord. I said, Lord, if you just let me get back home and save me, I said, I'll try my best to do what you want me to do. And I'll trust in you from now on. And I said, I'm going to pray day and night. So I just got up, like I was big as a house, you know. What they done, we had went through a little wooded area, and all the machine guns and all, they had cut this, just literally, they wasn't, I don't think, a twig hardly standing yet. But we got down on our bellies, you know, and crawled up. Well, they called for a truce. So they wanted to move to evacuate the wounded and the dead. And I volunteered to help, you know, move the dead. Me and this boy, we had a stretcher, you know. We moved the dead. We pulled them down, and they wanted us to pile them like, kind of like cordwood. Put six men down there and 6 across, you know, and up like that. And then leave them. They said bulldozers come in and put dirt over till you know, they could get them. You know, they had people, you know. I know I read about that before I got overseas, that you could volunteer to pick up the dead and help, you know, with cleaning up the grounds and all. And they'd pay you good. They'd pay you real good. I started to volunteer for that. I said, no, I better not volunteer for that. So that one time now, picking up them guys, oh, they were so tore up, you know, and all like that. And another thing I learned, you know, if a fella got killed, if he was scared, his eyes wouldn't shut. But if he wasn't, you know, it caught him off guard, his eyes would go shut. But if he was scared, like, you know, got into something and just got scared all of a sudden, you know, like, just like that, and his eyes be open. And we'd be picking, you know, going along with seat. I'd carry this front line, you know, I'd lead one time, and then we'd load up again, go back and load up again, and then we'd change, swap ends, you know. Then I was looking down at that guy, you know, and he was looking up at me with that